Dear friend who lives beside my world, I am writing to you tonight. I am at my desk with a warm lamp and a quiet street outside. I will keep my words simple and honest because I want you close. In my world people can call their other selves across nearby timelines. We call this an L school and it is common enough to shape daily life. I help route these calls as my job and I meet many versions of the same person. I want to tell you what I see and what I feel when these voices meet. I hope you will hear your own life echo in these stories. I want you to picture a phone that knows the shape of your choices. When you dial, it reaches the version of you who chose differently. You speak and they answer and both of you stay who you are. No one jumps through windows or trades places or breaks reality. We only talk and we agree or we refuse and then we hang up. There are rules because rules keep us gentle. We have a treaty that says no one may coerce another self. You can ask for help, but you must also offer fair value. You cannot buy a desperate self with tiny favours and big demands. You cannot hide your risks or lie about the outcome you want. If you try to trick your other self, the call is flagged and the line goes dark. I watch this happen now and then and my stomach tightens each time. I prefer the calls where people treat each other with care. Let me begin with a small story from this afternoon. A teacher asked to speak with a version of herself who never left the stage. In our world she teaches literature and walks past a mirror full of songs. In another branch she chased music and now sings in late bars. The teacher said her voice had grown thin with years of silence. The singer laughed kindly and said the silence could be turned. She offered breath drills that fit between classes and school bells. She recorded small phrases to lend courage during quiet commutes. They set a fair price, but the currency was not money alone. The singer wanted lesson plans for her niece who had fallen behind. The two selves traded hours and both felt rich at the end. I ended the call and sat with a grin that would not leave. This is what L-schooling is like when it works well. It is not magic, and it is not theft, and it is not fate. It is patient conversation and small promises kept. Still there are calls that bend the heart in sharp ways. Last week a quiet father asked for his bold self to take a hard talk. The bold self had thicker skin and a steadier voice, and a steadier jaw. The quiet father feared a fight with his son who had broken trust. He asked the bold self to stand in his place and speak truth. Our rules allow advice and coaching, but not full replacement. The bold self could not act as the father because duty is not transferable. He could teach the words and practice tone and offer calm rehearsals. He could not take the call with the son or sign the apology. The two men worked for 3 evenings on the same lines. On the 4th night the quiet father spoke to his son himself. He shook and he stumbled and he did not sound like his brave twin. Yet the son heard the real fear and the real love in that imperfect voice. The next morning the father wrote me to say the house felt softer. I saved that message because it carried more light than my lamp. Our treaty has many pages, but I tell callers one simple thing. Ask for help, but do not hand away the moment that makes you. Some people try to do that and regret arrives like rain. I will tell you about a woman who begged to borrow a breakup. She wanted her surer self to end a long and tired relationship. Her surer self refused because endings shape us like beginnings. She offered to stay on the line and coach through every breath. The woman faced the quiet and spoke for herself and then wept. Afterwards she said the kindness was not in being rescued. The kindness was in not being left alone inside the hearth room. I think of that line when I walk home at night. I think we often want a stronger self to live our hardest day. The truth is that help is best when it keeps dignity with it. There are markets for Elschooling and we regulate them with care. People trade time and skill and notes of trust called parity credits. A poor self cannot be hired for a risky task by a rich self for crumbs. We track the ratio of benefit and we ask if both sides can stand it all after. Only then can a contract pass through the switchboard. I like the word parity because it sounds like a level hand. Not every call is about pain, or work, or money, though. Many calls are soft and tender and strange. On birthdays, families hold a call with a cluster of nearby versions. They sing the same song in many voices with small differences. One version forgets a line and laughs, and the others follow the laugh. I once heard a table of cousins talk with their other cousins from 2 streets away in time. They compared accents and biscuits and the price of milk and cinema seats. It felt like a low fire on a cool night. I think you would have liked it because nothing dramatic happened. It was only people being gentle with choices they did and did not made. We also mourn across branches in a ritual we call the Wake of Versions. While a branch suffers a loss, we gather on the line with candles near. We share the good facts of the person and try not to polish them too much. We keep silence together for a minute that feels longer than a minute. Then we say goodbye and promise to carry a habit forward in their name. Sometimes the habit is small like watering plants before coffee. Sometimes the habit breaks a cycle that needed breaking for years. This act is simple but it feels like a strong seam in cloth. You asked me once if Elschooling makes people lazy about choice. I said no, but I also did not answer fully. Tonight I will try to answer with the care it deserves. Elschooling can tempt a person to borrow courage instead of grow it. It can tempt a person to rent talent instead of practice. It can tempt a person to gather praise that belongs to someone else. This is why our rules are strict about credit and authorship. If a singer gets coaching from another self, the album lists both names. If a coder borrows a fix, the patch note lists both hands. If a leader trains with a fearless self, the speech notes say so. We are not perfect, but we try to leave tracks where our help walks. The treaty was born from ugly ears that I hear about but did not see. People used to hide their cross-branch aid and lie to the public. A writer took whole plots from a clever self and blamed the fans for noticing. A trader hedged risks by pushing them into a poorer twin and paid nothing back. There were protests and then lum talks and then the new law. Now we have audits and warning tones and suspensions called parity locks. A parity lock is a quiet message that says you must wait and think. It is not prison, but it feels like a closed window in spring. Most people learn fast when fresh air is taken away. Do not worry, we do not handle this with cold hearts. When we find harm, we also look for the reason behind the harm. I have seen callers steal because they were scared of being small forever. I have seen callers lie because they were afraid of being alone. We try to repair the need that fed the wrong, not only the wrong itself. Sometimes we succeed and it is like watching a knot undo itself. I will tell you a case from last winter that still warms me. A young doctor was drowning in night shifts and grief. She Elschoolled a version who left medicine early to study sleep science. The two built a new rota for the hospital that cut errors and lifted mood. They priced the work as reputation share and not as cash. The old ward now keeps the schedule and posts a little plaque near the clock. It says our nights are gentler thanks to help across our own possible lives. Every time I think about it, I breathe deeper. I should tell you how the switchboard feels from my chair. There is a soft screen that shows clusters of names that are the same. Each cluster has a star that marks the core of record for the day. I check fairness rules and press connect and then I listen on mute. I listen because I must protect both sides and the common law. I am trained to hear fear and to hear fraud and to hear joy. I have learned that the same voice changes when it faces itself. The vowels round out when we forgive and the rhythm slows when we care. I keep notes, but I never keep secrets, that are not mine. At the end of each shift I walk home past open windows. Sometimes I hear music, and sometimes I hear a kettle, and sometimes only traffic. I think about how simple sounds mark that people are trying. I think about how trying is more beautiful than winning. You might ask if I call my other selves, and the honest answer is sometimes. I call less than I used to, and I ask for less than I once did. When I was younger I asked my braver self to speak to a lover for me. She said no with love, and she stayed on the line well. I spoke my own lines. I failed to sound steady, and I cried afterward, and then I slept. In the morning I felt lighter even though I had lost something. I learned that the sound of my own fear was part of my voice. I learned that a true goodbye is a door you close with your own hand. I will admit that I am tempted to make one kind of call again. There is a version of me who moved to a narrow street near the sea. She wakes early and buys bread and writes letters on a small balcony. When I hear her I want that light and that salt and that quiet. I ask her about the rhythm of her days and the cost of her rent. She asks me about the voices I hear in the switchboard and the taste of city rain. We trade recipes and we trade poems, and we end every call with a laugh. I used to ask if I should cross and live where she lives. Now I choose to stay and build the same quiet on my own street. I keep a plant that needs the same care each morning. I write more letters like this one to friends like you. I practice a simple song on a cheap guitar, and I like it. Schooling has made me better at being here, and not only better at wanting elsewhere. Our city once debated a new right called cross-residence. It would allow a person to move to a nearby branch and stay. The vote passed by a thin line, and it changed many lives. Some people moved and found a home that fit like a coat. Others moved and felt even more lost because the coat was not theirs. The law includes a period where you can return without shame. I like that part because it treats regret like weather and not like guilt. Your world might ask why we need rules for what sounds like a phone call. I think rules help us remember that help is power. When you can find a brave you with a button, you must use it with care. You must not make that brave you into a tool or a pet or a ghost. You must talk to them as you wish someone would talk to you on your hardest hour. The line respects tone just as much as it respects law. I once watched two selves fight over a story they both love. One had written it with slow ears and small drafts. The other had told it out loud to crowds and turned it into sparks. Both thought the work belonged to her alone. In the end they shared the stage and read the slow page and the bright riff together. The crowd stood and then sat and then asked to hear it again from the start. I think art is happiest when halves find a way to show up whole. I should also tell you about the risks that make me lose sleep. There are callers who prey on their frightened selves and that darkness is real. There are callers who pretend to be near when they are far away. We fight this with better checks and with patient audits. We also fight it with education in schools at an earlier age. We teach students to name pressure and to spot unfair deals. We teach them to say no even to a friendly voice that sounds like their own. We teach them that dignity is not a luxury item. When the lessons stick the switchboard grows calmer. I believe calm is the true sign of safety. There is a small museum near my office about the early days. It holds first-generation consoles in clear cases under soft light. You can pick up a heavy handset and hear the first legal L-score. Two sisters argue about recipes and then laugh at the burn on a pan. A plaque reads this is not science fiction, and the line always makes tourists smile. The gift shop sells postcards with tiny quotes like doors on them. I never buy them because I already live inside the quote. Instead I buy plain paper and good envelopes and sit in the cafe to write. I watch people fill out forms before they make a call. I watch the way fear looks a lot like hope when you tilt it. I watch couples hold hands while a lion hums in their ears. I watch elders teach younger selves how to forgive and keep boundaries. I watch teens learn that envy is a teacher, not a jailer. Sometimes I think I work in a school more than in a call centre. I hope this letter feels like a calm classroom where you are the only student. If you were here I would pour tea and we would sit near the window. I would let silence do some of the work because silence is wise. You might ask what I envy about your world. I envy the clean weight of single paths. I envy how a promise in your world cannot be outsourced to a nearby version. I envy the way courage has to stand on your own feet or not at all. I envy the way your mistakes become your private tutors. I envy your boredom because boredom without an exit can become art. Please do not think I am blessing pain. I am only saying that one road can teach as much as many roads if we listen. If we ever speak by voice, I will listen more than I talk. I want to hear the way your day sounds when you use your own words. Tell me about the smell of the shop where you buy fruit. Tell me about the steps you take at night to feel safe. Tell me about the friend you miss and the friend you have and the friend you want. I will answer with stories from the switchboard and the faces I remember. I will tell you about the baker who hired his patient self during winter rush. The patient self taught the staff to restock quietly and smile with their eyes. Sales rose, but more than that, tempers fell. I will tell you about the nurse who learned jokes from her self for the children. She delivered medicine with a tiny riddle and the ward grew lighter. I will tell you about the coder who met her cautious self and fixed a memory leak in her life. She learned to set stop times and the code bot cleaner by accident. These are small wins, but they add up like steps. I have also seen big changes that scared me but then made sense. A city allowed a pilot where firefighters could consult their risk-forward selves at a scene. The call lasted 15 seconds and focused only on tactics. Injuries dropped and no one had to be a hero in the bad way. Another city tried the same idea without tight limits and it went wrong. People leaned too hard on a fearless version and missed a roof collapse. Our board reviewed both trials and wrote a new rule in clear language. The rule says advice is a lamp and not a ladder. It must light the room, but it must not carry you up by itself. I like rules that read like kitchen wisdom. I collect them on a card and keep the card near my kettle. I read them when I feel rushed, and it slows me to a human pace. You may laugh, but I think speed is the main rival of care. The faster we call, the less we hear the person on the other end. The faster we fix, the more likely we are to break trust. The faster we judge, the less we see what could have been saved. So I choose slowness when I can, and I'm proud of that choice. I want to ask you a question that I ask myself. If you could speak to another you for 1 minute, what would you ask? Would you ask for a map, or a mirror, or a hand on your shoulder? Would you ask for a recipe for rest? Would you ask for a story that proves you can change? The answer changes for me each season, and that is fine. Growth feels like a polite guest that brings small gifts. It never bangs the door, and yet it changes the room. I think you have met this guest many times already. I believe you will meet it again after you finish this letter. You might close your eyes and hear a voice that sounds like yours. It might say drink water and write the hard email and call your aunt. It might say walk around the block and touch sunlight with your sleeve. It might say forgive that tiny thing that keeps getting larger in your head. If that happens, please know I am smiling for you from here. The hour grows late and my street is quiet in the best way. I want to leave you with one last picture from my day. A child called her future self to ask about a science fair. The future self did not spoil the result or hand over a perfect plan. She asked the child what problem felt real and near. The child chose dirty water by the old playground and built a small filter. She won a ribbon, but more than that, she won a habit. She now sees problems as invitations and not as walls. I held the line the whole time and tried not to cry at my desk. I hope my voice in your ear is the same gentle push. I hope you end this letter wanting to be kind to your own next step. I hope you feel less alone in your choices even without a special phone. Thank you for staying with me across this long page. I am grateful for your time and your open mind tonight. I will write again if you wish it, and I will listen when you speak. Until then, take care of your mornings and your evenings and the hour between. With steady affection from the window where I sit I send this. From your friend who lives beside your world, I say good night for now. Thank you for listening all the way to the end of my letter. If you enjoyed this message, please tap like because it helps more friends find us. Please subscribe to the channel so you will not miss the next letter across worlds. Leave a comment with a question you want me to ask a nearby version of you. If you wish to support the channel, you can donate through the small code on the screen or the link in the description. In the description you will also find links to other works from a very different series that you might enjoy. I'm glad you were here with me tonight, and I hope you will join me next time. Sleep well and stay curious until our next letter.